Hi, my name is Olivia, and I'm one of your librarians here at Jefferson College. So now that you're in college, you're expected to use high quality resources for your assignments, ones that are actually worthy of college level research. Thankfully, the library pays for these resources, gathers them together, and organizes them for you to access and search through. Depending on the assignment or research project, professors will require you to use different kinds of sources, things like books or scholarly journal articles. You should know now what these sources are, but what you might be less familiar with is where to go to find them. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through how to find both books and scholarly journal articles through the library. Before we start, you might be wondering why your instructors might require you to use library resources. Well, there are actually a few reasons. First, it is the best place to go to find resources that are high quality, appropriate, and essential for college level assignments because we've collected and organized all kinds of databases, journals, and other resources for you to search through. Plus, we've already paid for everything, which means no paywalls, but it also means that you have free access to a lot of high quality information that's normally impossible to access without spending a lot of money. Finally, it's important for you to know that the library is here to do more than just help you find resources. We're here for you throughout the research process. Now, let's go ahead and find some sources. Although there are multiple different ways to get where we're going, I'm just going to go ahead and start from the library's homepage. So on the homepage, we don't have to go very far before we find our search box here that says Discovery at Jefferson College Library. So what we're using today is called Discovery, or the Discovery Layer, or Discovery Service. It's a search tool that allows you to search through multiple databases at once, including dozens of research databases and the library's book catalog. It also has a variety of different types of sources within it, so if you want to cast the widest possible net when you're doing your research, Discovery is an excellent option. Be aware, though, that it doesn't have everything the library has access to, so it's helpful to check out other databases too, depending on your topic. These individual databases will be explored in your subject-specific classes later on in your college career. So let's get started on finding a book. First, I'm going to type in a keyword for my research topic. For this example, I'm going to look for information about plastics, maybe something regarding plastic waste. So I'll go ahead, type that in, and click search. So Discovery is great because it pulls together so many different sources into one place, but it can be challenging for this same reason. I mean, look at the amount of results we have. So that's why it's important to know how to use filters to narrow down your results to a manageable number and actually find what you need. And since we know we need to find a book, the first thing I'm going to do is look up along here underneath the search bar and go to the source type dropdown. If we click on that and we click 16 more, we can see all the different kinds of sources that are available to us about this particular topic that we searched. But if we know that we need books, we can go ahead and click on ebooks and books, click apply, and now we're just getting books as our sources. So at the top, we can immediately see that we have cut down on our results by quite a bit just by limiting the source type. And I do want to point out a few things. When we scroll through the results, you can kind of see here, each one at the top is going to tell you what kind of a source it is. So we have a bunch of ebooks here, and then our regular book will just say book. So if you find a book that seems particularly relevant to your research and you want to take a better look, you can go ahead and click on the title and you'll be able to view the book record, also known as the detailed record, which is going to give you all kinds of good information about that book that you may need. So we have our title up top, and then right below it here under availability and locations, if it's a print book, you will see where you can find it in the library. So if you want to check it out, you do want to make sure to verify that the book actually is available, but you also want to check out the location. This book's actually on display right now in our entrance display case. And most crucially, you'll want to be sure that you have the call number. If you don't have anything else when you show up to the library, having the call number is going to save you a lot of time. Call numbers are like a combination of numbers and letters that tell you exactly where a book should be on the shelf, kind of like it's the book's address. If we scroll down a little bit further, we're going to have more information about the book. So we have our author, some publication information, as well as the publication date. So this one was published in 2019. We've also got a couple of subjects, which are like the main topics that are discussed in the book. And then right below, we have an abstract. And your abstract's basically like your summary of the book. You can read that to get a better idea of what the book's about and if it's actually going to be helpful for your research. Right below that, we also have something called the content notes, which is a fancy phrase for the table of contents. Most of the time you won't want to read an entire book for an assignment, so it might just make more sense to read a single chapter out of a book. And looking at the content notes will help you identify which chapter might be the most relevant to your research. Now let's go back to our results and we'll take a look at an ebook just as a point of comparison. So this detailed record is going to have similar kinds of information, but there's also going to be a way to access the full text. So right up here underneath the title, there's some options for you. You may see a drop-down button that will give you different access options. In this case, our Access Now button is going to take us directly to it. So now that we've found the book that we need, let's go back to our search results and try to find some scholarly articles. So again, you can see right up top here that the source types we've got selected are ebooks and books. So we'll need to make sure that we deselect those. And now we're back to our initial results. So from here, we can click that drop down again and take a peek at all of our other source type options. And this is where it's really important to know the many different ways that people might refer to scholarly sources, because as you can see, there isn't a single option that says scholarly articles, at least not in this list. Beneath the search bar, there is a button to click so that you just narrow down to scholarly peer-reviewed journals, but clicking that button doesn't account for choosing multiple source types at once. Plus, I want you to be able to see all the different sources available to you, so I won't be using that button today. Instead, we're going to select academic journals. Again, scholarly journal articles, academic journal articles, peer-reviewed journal articles, they're all the same kind of source, one that's created when scholars are investigating a question in their field of study, they do some research, do some analysis, and then they publish their findings. So we'll go ahead, click on that, click apply. So now we've narrowed it down to academic journals, but we still have like over 1 million results. So we definitely need to narrow things down some more. So I'm now going to click where it says all filters. And then over here on the right, it's going to show us all of our different filtering options. So if we scroll down to our first filter here, we have the published date. So if we click on this, we have a couple of different options for ways that we can limit the range for when our results were published. This is usually a really quick way to eliminate a lot of results, especially when you're doing research on a topic that requires you to have the most current, up-to-date information, like something in science or medicine. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and choose the past 5 years, but I do want to point out that there is an option for a custom range right below it. But again, I'm just going to see what happens if I look for the past 5 years. So now we're down even further, under 500,000, but that's still way too many. So now I'm going to go back to our filters and see if there's other options that I can use. We've got our published date filter, that's all set. We have our source types limited. And then right below that, we have our subject filter. So when we first started our search, we did what was called a keyword search, which basically just told the database to pull any results at all that had our keyword in them, even if it was just a single mention in the item's record. Using subjects allows you to actually pick and choose the main topics you're looking for in an article. So if we pick a subject from here, then we're guaranteed to get results that are going to be primarily about that particular topic. So it goes right now from what is mentioned most frequently to the lowest mentions, and we see right here there are a lot of different options. So I'm going to click that, and that way we can see the different range in here of all the different main topics we can choose. When I first set out to do my research, I was kind of thinking maybe something in regards to plastic waste. I can take a look and see if I find anything that's kind of related to that. And oh, here's one for sustainability. I'm going to click on sustainability, click update selections, click apply. All right, so now we're down to like 3,000. And we've now got only the most recent articles published about plastics and sustainability specifically. So from here, we'll browse our articles and I might find one that seems pretty interesting. I can click on that title and I'll get into the detailed record. So although this detailed record looks similar to a book record, it is going to have some different kinds of information because we're actually looking at a record for an article instead of a book. We still will have our title and our authors, of course, but we now have a line for the source, which is going to tell us where this article was published originally, which in this case was the Global Environmental Politics Journal. Another thing that this source line will have is when it was published, so May of 2021, and it has the page length here, so that 22p, that's 22 pages long. If we scroll down a little bit further, we're going to see our subject term. So again, the main topics that this article is talking about. We see our plastics here, sustainability, and then if we scroll down a little bit further, we find our abstract. So again, you can use this paragraph long summary of the article to get a better idea of what the article is about and if it's going to be actually relevant for your research. So if I do decide that this article is something that I want to read, there are again a couple of different access options. We can click on that and we see a couple of different options here. When you have the chance, I would always choose the PDF because that way you can actually see exactly how the article looked when it was published. That means you're going to get things like all the proper page numbers that you'll need for in-text citations, but also any charts or graphs that might be helpful to better illustrate the content. I do also want to mention, you may see this little sidebar over here on the right that says related items. They will most likely be other articles that were published in that same journal. So might be worth checking out if the journal is specific to your topic. Otherwise, these are not necessarily guaranteed to be things that are similar to your article. So if you have been scrolling through the article and you decide it's definitely one that you want to use for your research, there are a couple different ways that you can get back here to this article again, and those are going to be right up here. So you have a print option, a download option. There's also this little arrow that will allow you to share it in a couple different ways. Send an email to yourself, or right down here with this little chain, you can click that and you're going to get a permalink. This is definitely the link that you will want to use because this is the only link that's guaranteed to get you back to this article again. I do also want to point out that these quotations will give you a citation generator. When it comes to database citation generators, definitely proceed with caution, be very wary, just because these databases have a lot of information that they have to pull together in order to make these citations, and they just don't always get things right. So you definitely don't just want to copy and paste it. You can use it as a point of comparison, but that way you'll definitely see what the database got wrong. And that's going to do it for us today. If you have any questions or need any assistance, please stop by the library or contact us through one of these methods.